I'm going to go over the homework that I assigned on Tuesday, March 4th, and it was due on Wednesday, March 5th. It's some ACE problems for investigation 1. So for this question right here, for question 7, it says Karen, Lou, and Jeff each buy a miniature tree. They measure the heights of their trees once a month from December to April. The heights are recorded in the table. So here we have Karen's tree, Lou's tree, and Jeff's tree. First question says, whose tree was tallest in December? So if we look at the month of December, we have Karen's tree was 794 thousandths of a meter. Lou's tree was 510 thousandths of a meter, and Jeff's was 788 thousandths of a meter. So first things first, I think we can cancel Lou out of there. So definitely, if I look at these decimals, 0.7 and 0.7 for Jeff are definitely greater than 0.5 for Lou. So Lou's not the answer. So if I look at Karen's numbers here, I have 794,000 and thousandths, and Jeff's is 788 thousandths. So when I'm comparing decimals, if I have to go until I find a number, two numbers that are different. So the zeros don't help me out at all. The sevens don't help me out at all because they're the same. I look to the next number, I have a 9 and an 8. So obviously the 9 is greater, so that means that this answer is greater. So this number is greater. So whose tree was the tallest in December? That would be Karen's tree. All right, the next one is whose tree was tallest at the end of April. So if I go back here to April, and I look at the three choices, again, all of them start out with a 1, so that 1 doesn't help me. If I look to the next number, I have a 6, a 5, and another 6. So obviously the 5 is the lowest one, so that can't be the option. For Karen's tree, I'll just write the numbers down, 602 thousandths, and Jeff's tree was 1 and 61 hundredths. So if I go until I see a different number, I'm going to right here. I have a 0 and a 1. Obviously the 1's greater than the 0, so that means Jeff's tree is the tallest at the end of April. All right, moving on to C. Whose tree grew the most during the first month? So the first month would be from December to January. So I have to find out who had the greatest growth. So I have to find the difference in from one month to the next. So what I'm going to do for Karen's tree is I'm going to subtract 932 thousandths. I'm going to subtract 794 thousandths from 932 thousandths. So again, when you're subtracting decimals, line the decimals up, bring it down, and now it's just a matter of doing some subtraction. So if I borrow here, the 13 becomes a 12. 12 minus 4 is 8. 12 minus 9 is 3, and 8 minus 7 is 1. So 0 minus 0 is 0. So the difference for Karen's tree from one month to the next was 138 thousandths. All right, now the next month we have Lou's tree. The next we have Lou's tree. So his January output there for his tree was 678 thousandths compared to his December, which is 510 thousandths. So I can actually subtract this one without doing any borrowing. So 8 minus 0 is 8, 7 minus 1 is 6, and 6 minus 5 is 1. So I have 168 thousandths. So far, I know that this is Karen's right here. This cannot be the answer because I could look here and see 138 thousandths is not as great as 168 thousandths. So far, Lou's tree is in the lead. Let's look at Jeff's tree. Jeff has 903 thousandths for his January and 788 for his December. So if I subtract these numbers, do some borrowing, that becomes a 9. So 13 minus 8 is 5. 9 minus 8 is 1, and 8 minus 7 is 1. Here's my decimal, and a 0. So it still looks like Lou's the winner. So 168 thousandths is definitely greater than Jeff's tree, which is only 115 thousandths. So Lou's tree is the winner here. And the last one, whose tree grew the most from December to April? So again, I'm looking for the difference from December to April. So I'm going to have to subtract. So that's it. So I have 1 and 602 thousandths minus 794 thousandths for Karen. And I'm going to have to borrow from over here. That becomes 15. That becomes 9. So 12 minus 4 is 8. 9 minus 9 is 0. 15 minus 7 is 8. And that leaves us, what, 808 thousandths. All right, this is Karen's growth total from December to April. Lou's, again, I'm finding the difference. I'm going to do 1 and 555 thousandths minus 510 thousandths. Subtract 1 minus 0 is 1, 5 minus 1 is 4, 5 minus 5 is 0, and 1 minus 0 is 1. So hopefully you can see right away that Jeff's is definitely greater than Karen's, because Jeff's is greater than 1, whereas Karen's is less than 1. And the last one, and you might even be able to look at this without even doing the subtraction and realize that this number right here for Jeff is from December to April, it does not grow 1 whole, right? In order for it to have grown a whole, more than 1, it'd have to be at 1.78. Have to be actually a 1.788. So it definitely didn't grow 1 whole meter. So that tells us that Lou's tree is the one that grew the most. All right, moving on. The next section, it asks us to make estimation with decimals easier. You can think about whole numbers or fractions that are close to the decimals in value. For example, in exercise 8 to 17, identify a common fraction that is equal to or close to each decimal. So for number 8, we are given this. And this is a matter of you guys knowing your benchmark fractions. So this is 2/10, and if I write that as a fraction, it's 2 over 10, which reduces to 1/5. So that's the benchmark fraction we were looking for there. For number 9, we have 25 hundredths. Again, as a fraction, that is going to be 25 hundredths, and that reduces to 1/4. And that's what we're looking for there. For number 10, we have 4/10. Again, I can write that as 4/10, and it reduces to 2/5. For number 11, I have 5/10, which I can write as 5/10, which reduces to 1/2. All right, number 12, we have this, which can become written as a fraction as 6/10, but reduced, it's 3/5. And there's our benchmark for there. For number 13, we have this, 67 hundredths. Now I could write that as a fraction as 67 over 100, but that's not really like a benchmark fraction that we see. So this is where kind of knowing those benchmarks really come into play. And hopefully you know that 2/3, which is the answer I'm looking for here, 2/3 as a decimal is 0.6 repeating, which is really close to 0.67. All right, moving along. Number 14, we have 0.8, which I can say that as 8/10, which reduces to 4/5. For number 15, I have this, 875 thousandths, which as a fraction is just like you said it as a decimal, 875 thousandths. And if you reduce this, eventually you'd come, if you reduced it with the greatest common factor, you'd find that 125 goes into 875 7 times, and height goes into 1008 times. So again, that's a matter of knowing those benchmarks. Number 16, we have 0.9, which goes to 9/10, which cannot be reduced. All right, and the last one in this section is 0.78, which I can write as 78 hundredths. But again, and that could be reduced even further, but that's not what we're looking for there. We're looking for a benchmark that's close to this. So a benchmark that is close to this, you guys should know that 0.75 equals 3/4, right? Which is an acceptable answer. But I also think that 0.78 is really close to this over here, 0.8, which is back to 4/5. So I think either one of those answers would be acceptable there. All right, next section, last section, a few more problems to do. Didn't write the numbers for you, so that starts off with, all right, the directions say, so for exercise 18 to 23, write a whole number, mixed number, or a fraction that could replace each decimal in an estimation task. So for number 18, you are given 3.14 and 3.14. We could say, I think in class, we said that this will be equal to about, so if we think about it, 3.14 is really close to, let's say 3.1, right? Which I can go ahead and say is 3 1/10. All right, so I think that would be an acceptable answer there. Number 19, we have 12.96, or 12 96 hundredths, which I think that's pretty close to the acceptable answer we gave today in class was 13. For number 20, we're given 0.42, and the closest benchmark to that would be 0.4, which we said was 4/10, which reduces to 2/5. For 21, we were given 473.2, which really is 473 2/10, and 2/10 reduces to 1/5. I also think 473 would be an acceptable answer there. For number 22, we're given 0.33, and you guys should all know that this is really close to 0.3 repeating, which is equal to 1/3. And finally, for number 23, 4.25, we established up above that 0.25 was 1/4, so this becomes 4 1/4. And there you go. Those are the ACE problems from homework from Tuesday, March 4th.